In the first scene, a man named Tario hurries into an airport in Brazil. He looks worried and is in a hurry. Most people would guess that he missed his flight, but that can't be true. He then goes to the help desk and asks if there are any tickets to the West, when he finds out that the next one is 2 hours away. He buys the ticket just to get across the terminal. Anise, a famous influencer, is video chatting with a friend in New York at the same airport when she suddenly chokes and falls over. Inez is worried, and it doesn't help that she can't help her outside. People who are watching TV can see that the TV reporters and hosts of live shows have passed out in front of the camera. Not only that, but people are sleeping on the ground in a whole street. Everyone except Tario thinks it must be some kind of joke. Who knows what will happen? He says it's time to do something, so he runs to the airport terminal. When a guard isn't paying attention, Tario grabs his gun and tells everyone to move out of the way. He runs to catch a flight to Moscow that is about to leave in a few minutes. When he gets on the plane, only a few people are already on board. He holds everyone at gunpoint. The pilot is missing, and Matthew, the co-pilot, doesn't want to help the terrorist get the gun. Outside, a bullet hits Matthew in the hand and hurts him. Gabrielle, the flight attendant, tries to keep the passengers from getting upset. Tario comes out of the cockpit and asks if there is a pilot on board. Sylvia, a woman, gets up. Even though she is just a retired helicopter pilot, Tao tells her and Matthew to leave with everyone else. Because of the bullet, the avionics are broken, so no one on the plane can talk to anyone outside while it is in the air. Sylvie and Matthew try to talk some sense into Tario, but he won't listen. He says he works for NATO as an officer and knows something they don't. When he is pushed, he says that the sun's rays have become dangerous. From the next day on, even people who stay inside will die when the sun comes up. This has already started in places like Japan and Korea in the east. And if the sunrise catches up with them, the next target will be the plane. Matthew and Sylvie don't believe him, so they think he might be crazy. Tario also admits that he might look like an idiot, but he says he's not. Matthew's hand is really bleeding. In the long run, this could be a problem. One of the people on the plane, Laura, is a nurse who helps an old man with dementia at home. She is the only person on board who knows anything about medicine, so she helps the pilot. Since they don't have a sewing kit, they use a hot knife to close the wounds. Matthew screams in pain, which makes the other people even more scared. Matthew knows that their lives will all be in danger if they start to protest. So, he tells them that, based on their tour, they will land in a different place before they go back to their original destination. Matthew hopes that the fighter jets will come to save them since they were taken at gunpoint. But Sylvie has the feeling that they are on their own. Ayaz, another passenger, has heard them talking about the sun and thinks the pilot might be lying to them. All of a sudden, an Arab passenger starts to cough and passes out. Ayaz pretends to help him, but in the process, he takes Taryn's gun. Matthew, in ordered that Taryn be locked in the toilet, was asked to be honest. The pilot tells Tario that they are going to land in Iceland because he wanted to go west. There, the police will take the terrorist into custody and let the others go. He also tells them what Taryn thinks about the sun and how it will kill people. This makes the people on the bus crazy. They start to remember weird things that happened before they got on the plane and start to worry about their families. Matthew calms everyone down and takes it upon himself to save everyone. Later, he tries to land at an airport in Iceland, but he doesn't get a signal from traffic control. When they get close to the ground, they see that several planes have crashed into each other and people are running around. They finally figure out that Tario was telling the truth, but they can't land because the runway is blocked. The plane can only fly a short distance west to Scotland. So, the captain makes the decision to do it and hopes for the best. He pulls Tario out of the toilet so the man can tell everyone what's going on. He tells you that he learned about the sun by listening in on what his older brother and sister were talking about. He has no idea why this is happening or when it will stop. He only knows that they have to fly away from the sunrise if they want to stay alive. The Arab man who fell asleep earlier is still on the floor. He is having trouble breathing and is about to have a heart attack. He says that he swallowed with his last breaths. The nurse, Laura, does her best to save him, to get the diamonds out of his behind, but she fails. Simultaneously, they have to make an emergency landing in Scotland, and Matthew stops the plane just before it hits a wall. When they go outside, their phones start to ring with messages from their friends and family. The internet is full of stories about how sunlight can kill you. Half of the people on Earth have died, and the other half are still alive. The airport is empty because everyone who could have left has, and those who can't are hiding in dark places hoping to be safe. But the news says that even inside bunkers, people are dying. Suddenly, 3 RAF servicemen come up to them and ask for help. They only have 45 minutes until sunrise, so they decide to get important supplies and fly west. Jacob is an aircraft engineer and is one of the people on board. He wants to save his wife, who is pregnant, by going back to her. But for the safety of everyone on board, he is asked to step back. After getting supplies and filling the plane's tank one more time, they take off again. One of the soldiers is a pilot. and he suggests that they fly away from the equator so that the sun doesn't catch up to them as quickly. The next place they will go is Canada, where they will get more gas and fix the radio. After a while, the internet is fixed, and all of their phones start to ring. They get the last messages from their friends and family in Brussels who have already died. Then, the man reads an article that says the sun's polarity is to blame for the disaster. Another passenger named Hode is an expert on the weather and knows what it means for a sun to be polarized. He says that the sun's magnetic field changes direction every 11 years, but no one knows why. It doesn't make a big difference in the world, so there hasn't been much research. But over the past few decades, the reversal has been getting less strong. Ho thinks that this makes the reversal much stronger in the other direction. If what he says is true, then gamma rays are coming from all over the Earth. People are because the sun goes down. Instantly, they can't prove the theory because most likely all of the scientists who wrote the article are also dead. Then Ayaz hears on the news that the RAF servicemen they picked up are actually terrorists from Afghanistan. They were arrested, and at the airport outside, they were being taken back to their country. One of them starts a fight with the old man and pushes him. It kills him and makes the terrorist, who was a passenger, angry. It's cool to be a terrorist, but it's not cool to push old people. Sylvie tells Matthew about the news story, and the two of them decide to leave the terrorists in Canada. They land a few minutes later and have 2 hours until sunrise. Several people who died in the sun lie around the city. The terrorists are told to go to the nearest store and look for parts to fix radios. They agree, but Gabrielle and Jacob have to come with them. Gabrielle doesn't know about the plan, but Jacob does. So, when they are in the shop and Jacob locks the terrorists in a room, Gabrielle says she doesn't want to go with him. Jacob doesn't waste any time trying to make her see his point of view. In the end, the terrorists keep up with him all the way to the airport. Gabrielle, however, is left behind in the city. Without her, the plane takes off. The terrorists keep up with it and are able to shoot through a window. Luckily for the people on board, it only makes a crack. So if they stay at the same height, it won't. A kid named Dominic who is dying is also on the flight. Zara, Oz's overprotective mother, tells the man to leave when Oz tries to talk to him. All of a sudden, someone in Hawaii sends them a radio message. The conversation is cut short, but they think that the only reason some survivors are still alive is because they are staying in an underwater bunker. Matthew wants to go to Hawaii right away, but Sylvie thinks that going there because of a message that wasn't clear would be a bad idea. Tario, on the other hand, is furious that the captain gets to decide everything. He speaks out against it, and everyone agrees that they will vote to decide. From now on, when things start to calm down, several alarms will sound at the same time, meaning that something is wrong with the plane. Matthew figures out that one of the terrorists who was following the plane earlier is now attached to the landing gear by some means. They won't be able to land if he stays there. So, Matthew decides to fly as high as he can so that the heat and lack of oxygen will bring him down. He doesn't think about the broken window, though. Due to the difference in pressure, it breaks, making a mess inside the plane. As the passengers get ready for the crash, things start to fly into the air. Matthew quickly lowers the plane's altitude, and Jacob closes the window for a while with a wooden board. Everyone starts to feel better, but Dominic can't breathe because his breathing tube flew away. Ayaz comes up with a plan and makes a breathing tube out of the oxygen pipe. Zara is glad that she was mean to Ayaz before, but she feels bad about it. The captain tells everyone that they can't go to Hawaii because they won't get there in time. At this height, the best choice would be to land on the Alaskan island of Oahu. Also, the turbulence wasn't able to get rid of the terrorist who was hanging from the ceiling. If this guy wasn't, like, a terrorist, he'd be Superman. I, along with Jacob and Tario, go to the plane's undercarriage and cut a hole in the floor to see him. Tario points his gun into the dark, but the bad guy pulls it back and almost kills him. Ayaz saves him in the end by shooting the terrorist. For a few minutes, he is their hero, but then they find out that he was the reason the Arab passenger died. They put his body to rest in Canada, where a man saw Oz cut the man's stomach open. He is a con man who was sending diamonds from Brussels to Moscow without paying for them. The Arab man agreed to have the diamonds put in his body, but he died because he didn't follow the panicked instructions. Some passengers say that Oz should be left behind like the terrorists, but in the end, the vote is in favor of Oz. In the next scene, he is cuffed in the avionics bay because of this. Before taking off again, they land in Alaska and fill up the tank. Once the climatologist Hode is in the air, he or she notices something strange. The fruits they got in Canada taste like they haven't been touched by humans. He thinks it's because the gamma rays are so strong that they change the way the food's atoms are put together. The most worrying thing about it is that it makes the food less healthy. If this keeps up, they will die of hunger in a couple of weeks. The science in this movie is crazy and makes no sense. Matthew agrees that there is a risk, but he says that their main goal should be to get away from the sun. In the last few hours, he's been getting worse and worse. Sylvia tells him to take a break, but he gets angry and yells at her, which is not like him. The other people on the plane decide to make him rest and take him out of the cockpit. Even though Matthew is angry, he says he will sleep for the next few hours. A while later, they hear two people talking on the radio, but all the group can make out is the word Star 17. They soon figure out that the person on the phone is a cosmonaut in space. They are shocked that someone like that is still alive, but this also means that he is talking to the control room, which is on. With new hope of staying alive, they decide to go to the NATO headquarters in Brussels, where everything started. At this rate, it will be 4 hours before the sun comes up after they land in Brussels. So, they might find out something at the headquarters about the secret bunker. With help from the trio outside, Laura finds Matthew passed out in the bathroom. It turns out that the cut on his palm got infected, which poisoned his blood. This is why he was acting like he was. They have to cut off the infected part of the body to fix the problem. Laura says that if they can get to a hospital, she can do the surgery in Brussels. But Sylvie can't land the plane on her own without Matthew. People beg her to help because she is the closest thing they have to a pilot, but she knows she can only land a helicopter. A horse shows her that if she doesn't do something, everyone will die. And Sylvia had to watch a few videos about how to get a job. But when she has to do the work, she freaks out. A violent storm hits, and everyone prepares for the worst. In the end, they land with a lot of shaking. Aside from that, the plane and the people on it are both safe. Everyone cheers for Sylvie and enjoys the moment of success even though everything else is going wrong. Not losing a lot of time, they split up into 3 groups and each group does a different job. 2 men stay overnight at the airport to get more gas, while Tario, IAZ, and a man named Rick go to the NATO headquarters. Zara, Laura, and their group take Matthew to the nearest hospital. At the hospital, there are a lot of dead people in the way. From what I can tell, people knew about the deaths before dawn and were trying to save their own lives. Laura tells everyone to forget about the chaos and try to save Matthew. Zara also puts medicine for her son and for the other people in her bags. At the same time, Tario shows them at NATO headquarters the conference room where he first heard about the disaster. They don't have enough time to go through all the papers, so Rick decides to check the surveillance footage while he is gone. Tario makes fun of Turkish background, which causes the two of them to fight. Racism is the worst. At the end of the world, he hits Ayaz by accident, which knocks him out and makes him bleed heavily elsewhere. Rick finds a recording of officials talking about a bunker under a dam in Bulgaria. The same thing they heard on the radio a few hours ago was the name of the place. Star 17. Tario comes up to him and tells him that Oz has already left, so he can't go back to the other guys. Rick sees on the screen that A's body is lying in a pool of blood, but he is too scared to say anything. A half hour before sunrise, everyone gets on the plane. Matthew isn't in the best shape, but the surgery helped him feel better. Tario tells everyone that Ayaz has already driven away, but they can't wait any longer for him to come back. They start the engines with heavy hearts. In the next scene, a car stops in front of the plane and Ayaz gets out. In the avionics bay, Tario is being put in chains. Sylvie tells everyone that if the plan to go to Bulgaria doesn't work, they won't have enough fuel or time to go somewhere else. When they land, everyone needs to be ready, because it will take them only 20 minutes to drive to the bunk. Ayaz is in the bathroom when he has a seizure. He thinks it's because he's lost too much blood, but it only lasts a few seconds. He doesn't tell the other people, though. When he goes outside, Tario asks him what he wants to do since he doesn't want to kill him. He lets the guy go to the bunker with them. After a while, they land at a Bulgarian airport and take 2 different vehicles to split into 2 groups. Ayaz drives the second car while Sylvie drives the first one and shows them the way. On the way, Ayaz has another seizure, which causes them to crash. The first car has already gone a long way, and the rest of the group can't keep up. At a fork in the road, Sylvie goes right and comes to a half-open gate. When a passenger tries to touch it, the electricity makes them fly away. Also, they find out that they need to keep pressing a button for the gate to stay open so that he can get out. Before leaving, Tario offers to wait for the others while Sylvia and the rest of the group go inside. Sylvie ties him up with handcuffs so he won't tell on her. It also shows that he won't be free until the other group shows up. Ayaz and the group, on the other hand, turn left at the intersection and come to a similar gate on the other side of the dam. They use their clothes to get up and out of the way. Even though they left the bunker in different places, they all end up at the same place in the end. The passengers are finally welcomed inside by military men who reassure them that they are safe. Tario is left by himself to ask God to forgive him. He stands in front of the rising sun and tells it to do its best. In the end, he is also killed because he wants to know what happens to the other people who are still alive.